Good evening and welcome to a special pre-Shavuot Maccabi conversation with professional golfer Ben Silverman. Before we bring in Ben and our host Jeremy Friedman, I'd like to once again thank the JCC and producer Yuri for all their help. Now on to the show. Our host for tonight is Jeremy Friedman. Jeremy is a lifelong member of the Maccabi family, having played in 3 Maccabi games and 2 European Maccabi games. He's won 2 individual gold medals and 2 team gold medals. Additionally, he was the captain or co-captain of the Canadian golf team in 2015, 2017, and 2019. He's also the proud co-chair of the Maccabi for Life fundraising campaign. Our special guest for tonight is Toronto's own Ben Silverman. Ben is currently a member of the PGA's Korn Ferry Tour and spent the 2018-2019 season on the PGA Tour. With 6 career top 10 finishes and 1 victory on the Korn Ferry Web.com Tour, Silverman is one of Canada's best golfers and easily one of the best Jewish golfers in the world. A Maccabi Games alumnus, Silverman captured a gold medal at the 2013 Games, winning the tournament by 11 strokes. Jeremy, Ben, thank you for your time tonight. The floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Daniel, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us, and a special welcome and thank you to Ben Silverman for joining us tonight and for sharing what I think you'll all end up agreeing is a really remarkable journey that he has been on. So Ben, let's dig right in. Let's start with your introduction to golf. Tell us how old you were, how you got introduced, and take it a little bit from there.
So golf was pretty foreign to me for most of my childhood, hockey, all other sports that I was into, softball, baseball, and such. But, other than going to driving ranges every now and again with my dad and brothers, I didn't golf. So when I was 13, we were on vacation in Vancouver with my family, hitting balls on the range. My mom, took me to keep me busy to go do something. And there was a sign on the wall that said 1 week junior golf camp, ages, I don't know, under 16 maybe, but I was the oldest one. I was 13. She was like, "You want to go do it?" It was 4 days on a driving range and 1 day on golf course. And we were there another week. I was like, "Sure, let's do it." And I was completely hooked after that.
So you're 13, going on 14, you get hooked. What do you do after that? How do you start working on your game?
So this is great. So, well, at least I think it's great. We don't have a lot of money. We're not into golf. We're not a member at any country club or anything. So we come back from Vancouver. My mom sees I'm completely hooked on golf, and I need a set of clubs. So we go to, I think it was Salvation Army. We might have even gone to the Salvation Army in Vancouver. And I basically built a set of clubs out of $1 and $2 clubs that I could find in the store, and a leather golf bag. And I think we spent $25 and I put together a full set of clubs. And I took that set back with me to Toronto and would take the bus from my parents' house to Uplands Golf Club at Yonge and Highway 7, basically Yonge and Steeles area, and just go mess around and try to figure out how to play golf.
And were you a natural, or did how did those early days? How did the game look in the early days?
Terrible. So I feel like I was a natural in other sports, but golf was so foreign and needed like technical training to get the swing down, and I was terrible. Like, probably one of the worst junior golfers up until I was 17 years old, who thought he was going to be a professional golfer.
At 16, is that when you played your first tournament?
Yeah, first CJGA tournament, Canadian Junior Golf Association. Yeah, my mom, 118. And I remember that I lost by 4. Second to last place was 114.
So when do you start getting proficient, somewhat proficient?
So that was closer to when I was 18, kind of around senior year of high school. I started.
What kind of handicap did you have then?
I think I went into senior year of high school with a 12 handicap, even maybe finished high school with a 12 handicap, and which was not good for high school golf at all. There were kids in school shooting 60s already, getting full scholarships to top universities in the States. And I practiced every day, like every free hour that I can possibly get in the year off that I took after high school before going to university. And that's when I saw the big improvement. I went from a 12 handicap to a 2 handicap in that time frame, less than a year. And actually, I won my club championship. How about that?
So you're 17 or 18 years old. You're a 12 handicap. When do you decide, I think I want to make this my career?
Oh, I decided that when I shot 118. I wasn't waiting for success to decide that I was going to do that.
Did your parents have any reaction to your declaring you wanted to be a professional golfer when you're shooting 118?
I can't remember. They were 100% supportive. Whether they thought I could do it or not, they were all in. And I don't know if that was just because they knew nothing about golf or how bad I was at the time, or they just knew that I was a great athlete in general and I would figure it out. But kudos to them, because they went 100% in with me and paid a ton of money to get me going down there with no scholarship. And I tried to find help wherever I could. But I think at some point I'm gonna have to sit down with my parents and be like, "What were you guys thinking when I sat at the kitchen table with you with a notebook of stuff for college and I was shooting these scores?"
So you finished high school as a 12 handicap, and you want to be a professional golfer. Clearly, the scholarship offers are not rolling in. You just mentioned you took a year off. Tell us about that and where you go from there.
Yes, so I took up a full-time job at Launch Golf Center at Steeles and Highway 400. And I think I was working 4 or 5 days a week, 8-hour shifts, and then practicing full-time whenever I wasn't working, hitting balls here and there when I was working, probably when I wasn't supposed to, and then getting free lessons from coaches who wanted to help me out. I remember Mike Vinnick was working there. He was a great instructor. And then when I went down to college, well, maybe I'm fast forwarding, but I got a lot of help from coaches where I didn't have to pay money that would normally be extremely expensive.
Go on, you mentioned you get down to about a 2 handicap. What do you do at that point?
So won my club championship at Mandarin Golf and Country Club in Markham. Shots, I think 71, 73, 71, 2 over. I don't think I've ever shot scores like that before. And then I followed a good friend of mine at the time from high school down to Florida to a school he was going to, Johnson & Wales University in North Miami. And he was a really good golfer. I was learning pretty much everything from him at the time. And then I stayed there and stuck it out and did 2 years there and improved my game a ton, and then eventually transferred to FAU for my junior and senior years.
Are you still thinking, not only do I want to be a golfer, but how high were your aspirations? Because now you're seeing the college players around you, you're seeing the depth of the field of just the college players. What are you thinking?
So I think what helped me the most was that I was, in my mind, going to the PGA Tour no matter what from the very beginning, from when I was 16 years old and made up my mind. So I was never reconsidering, is this a good idea? Maybe I should have a backup plan. I can't tell you how many people ask me, what's your plan B? Are you sure? You're going to blah, blah, blah. What's your degree? I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I don't care what I study. I'm going to the PGA Tour. I happen to study psychology because it interested me, but you could have given me a degree in arts and I would have been like, fine, I just need to golf. I don't care.
So you still got the eye on this prize. You want to be on the PGA Tour. You're in college. You're playing. What happens next? How do you go from there to Web.com Tour?
So as I was getting ready to graduate, I started talking to several different people that I had met in the golf world about how to get involved in professional golf, what tours to look up, how to sign up, where all the best players are going to compete, looking into qualifying school to get onto Mackenzie Tour Canada or at the time Web.com Tour, now Korn Ferry Tour. And then I ended up trying my hand at a mini tour when I graduated summer of 2010 called the Hooters Tour. I think it's now called Swing Thought Tour, maybe, or something like that. And my cousin from Philadelphia was extremely generous at the time, Steve Silverman. He gave me $5,000 to go get started. And I played 5 tournaments and lost that $5,000 and realized I need to get a lot better. I made 1 cut. So at least I had something to show for it.
So you're on this mini tour, you're on the Hooters tour. How do you graduate from that to, I guess, Mackenzie Tour?
So yeah, so I'll fast forward to, I finally earned status on Mackenzie Tour in Canada through trying Q schools year after year. And so I graduated college 2010, and it was 2014 before I first made any sort of PGA Tour affiliated tour. And that was summer of 2014.
4 years to get on to the Mackenzie Tour.
4 years of grinding, trying to get as good as I can, playing against other pros, and I finally made it on a recognized tour in 2014, and that's still 3rd level. I still got to go 2 more levels to get to the PGA Tour. But I was
in that long 4-year period to get on the Mackenzie Tour. Did you look in the mirror and go, "Why am I doing this?"
Never, no. I was so determined that at some point I had set a goal that by 30 I wanted to make the PGA Tour, and I was realistically thinking that was a conservative timeline because I graduated from college at 22, 23. So I figured that's a conservative. What's that?
How old are you when you first get on the Mackenzie Tour at that point? You're like 25, 26?
So, well, let's backtrack. I'm 32 right now. That was 6 years ago. So yeah, I would have been 26.
So you're on the Mackenzie Tour after 4 tries. Now you play Mackenzie Tour. How does that go?
So it goes great. I struggled a little bit the first year, but it played well enough to keep my membership for the next summer. And then 2015 made some big improvements and almost won twice, lost in a playoff, started shooting really low scores on a regular basis. And that even though I didn't win and didn't finish top 5 or 10 on the money and automatically graduate to Web.com Tour, what I learned playing that summer and the scores I shot really helped me with my confidence to get through Q school that winter for Web.com Tour, Korn Ferry Tour, and ultimately play well enough all 3 stages of that qualifying to get out there in 2016.
Difference in your game from about 2014 when you first got on the Mackenzie Tour to 2016 when you actually graduate from the Mackenzie Tour? What had changed the most?
Partly, everything got a little bit better every year. I'd hit it a little bit further every year, partly with maxing out what I could with the new technology, partly with having better physique, better body mechanics, better swing technique that I would generate a little more power. My ball striking abilities with my irons slowly got a little bit better every year. Putting, I was always very sharp with putting. And short game just kind of in there. It was good enough to get me where I needed to go. Now, as we talk today, it's much better. But the other areas of my game got me through because I'd worked pretty hard on them. Driving and putting were my strongest areas.
And at this point, give us a sense on the Mackenzie Tour. What's a week look like on the Mackenzie Tour for you in terms of how much are you practicing? How hard are you working on putting and chipping? And how much time at the driving range? What's it take at that stage for you to make those improvements?
I mean, it's pretty much same on every tour. Mackenzie Tour, PGA Tour, Korn Ferry, you're usually there Monday to Monday, somewhere in between. You're there a full week. You get 3 days at the golf course. In the beginning, I'd play 2 practice rounds. I'd play 27 holes or something. And then in between that, you're practicing, usually spending 6 to 8 hours at the golf course. And it's a lot. You're tired by the time you go home. You're trying to fit in a workout too in between to try to stay in good physical condition because as a high-end athlete, for most of us, just walking around the course doesn't improve our physical ability. So we got to get in the gym, do golf-specific stuff, or lift some weights. So you got to save some energy here and there for that. So it's a long week for sure.
And what work are you doing on your mental game at that point? And who's helping you with it, if anybody?
So I made some huge improvements in the mental aspect of things around the time I got on Mackenzie Tour, which was ironically right when I met my wife, Morgan. And she is very good in thinking in positive ways. Hey, Chloe, sorry, my dog just walked in. Thinking in positive ways and focusing on the good things, not letting your mind get distracted with what you did wrong or what you should have done, and just having an attitude of letting things flow, letting things be free, and not trying to force the issue with shots or force a circumstance. I need to make birdie here. I need to make this putt. Everything needs to be in a mindset that just allows you to flow through it naturally and go through the process of what you've been practicing. And I read several books about it at the suggestion of her and her father-in-law. We even tinkered a little bit with some hypnotherapy because he was able to actually get me under a couple times. And a lot of it had to do with self-confidence, just building my own self-confidence. But I was doing a lot of reading, a lot of meditating as well.
Then you go to the web.com qualifying school in what, 2016?
I made it through then. Yeah, I think that was my 5th try for that tour.
Wow. So when you made it through, like, when was the moment that it hit you that you'd made it through? Like, were you right up against it at the last round, or were you in pretty good shape? And tell us about that experience.
So I snuck through the second stage, the second tournament. I think right on the number I made it. But once I got to final stage, I opened up with 5 under round 1. I think I was in 2nd place. And it just felt easy from there. I knew my game was sharp that week, and I never doubted that I wasn't going to be able to shoot good enough scores to get through, and I just kept rolling. I had one not great second round, 73 or 72, and then went right back to under par the next, 3rd and 4th round. I ended up finishing top 10, I believe.
Now you're going to the web.com tour, and tell us what that was like.
So
Mackenzie Tour.
Yeah, again, another learning experience, because I had to get over a mental hump of that this was a higher level and there's got to be even better players here. But what you find out eventually is that it's not. It's everybody's just fine-tune their game a tiny bit more. Everybody's a little bit more consistent, but it's not like all of a sudden everybody's shooting 58 or 59 every day. A lot of the scores are the same. The courses you're playing are the same. Everybody's just more consistent. And if you ignore the media, ignore the hype about getting up another level and achieving greater things and just focusing on what you got to do to get better and going about your business, then it's a lot easier that way. But I missed my first 8 cuts in a row, first 8 straight tournaments my rookie year on that tour, because I was not in a good mental state. And
are the other players, like, are they supportive? Are they trying to pick you up? Or is it basically you're all competitors, it's a dog-eat-dog existence, and no one's worrying about your game, they're worrying about their own?
You get some camaraderie of guys that knew each other in college or played together a ton in amateur golf, but I was never part of that scene. I wasn't one of those guys. So almost everybody on those tours I was meeting for the first time. I knew 1 or 2 guys that I had seen in college that I competed against, and we got along, but it wasn't like we were travel buddies or anything. So for me, it was me and Morgan. She was my full-time caddy. And once we got married in January 2016 and then started traveling for a web.com tour. So it was me and her. We were working on everything together, trying to battle through whatever issues I was going through together. And I made the 9th cut and then got to play a bunch more tournaments the rest of the year, but I didn't play well enough to earn my card for the next year and had to go back to qualifying school again. But then I breezed through.
Let's talk about the 2017 Price Cutter Charity Championship, where I know you shot 263s, and the outcome was a pretty good one.
Yeah. So I'd never done that before, back-to-back 9-unders. I'd shot 9-under before in some mini tour events and such, but never back-to-back. And I went into that week after just taking 3 weeks off because my oldest son was just born 3 weeks before that. And I hadn't touched a club for 2 weeks leading up to that tournament. So I went in there feeling kind of rusty, unsure. It was a very score. I ended up shooting 25 under to win the tournament, but I only won by 1. Like, the scores are really low that week. And I shot 2 under round 1 and was upset. You know, the feeling like I was rusty, I was way behind, which I was. And then I got a little lucky. We had some crazy rain and thunderstorms, and I didn't get to play at all on Friday because of where my tee time was. We were completely rained out. But the storm stopped in the afternoon, and at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, I got to go out to the course to just practice on the driving range. And I was able to work out some of the kinks that didn't feel comfortable. And I saw a couple buddies on the range, and we were just talking and just loose, like having a good time. And I know that time on the range Friday night helped me. And all of a sudden, all the areas of my game started to click Saturday morning, and the putts started going in. Every drive was where I wanted it. Started hitting my approaches close, making eagles, holding out a bunker shot for eagle. Like, a lot of good stuff happened.
So in the second round, you shoot 63, and we always hear that they say it's so hard to follow up a low round with another low round. Yet you shoot another 63 in round 3. Well, why is it so hard to shoot a good round after a low round? And what did you do on the third round that allowed you to go so low again?
Well, usually when you have a round like that, everything's flowing. You're not second guessing yourself. You're not thinking too much. You're just doing what you're focusing on the shot for the amount of time you need to, hyper focus, and then you move on and you go to the next one, and you're not doing a lot of crazy thinking in between. And usually once that round's over and you got a night to sleep on it, and then the next day starts, if you're at all thinking about what you did or how to get back in that mindset again, it's already too much thinking going on, and it's hard to just get back into that same flow state. And a lot of times you'll see guys even on the PGA Tour shoot 63, 70, 62, 69, or 61, 71, right? Because it's difficult to follow it up. But one thing I learned from the Mackenzie Tour was that you have to follow it up if you want to win. Like, scores are going to be 20 something under. If you don't shoot that, you're not going to win. And that's what helped me through the Price Cutter tournament, because I knew historically how low the scores were in that tournament every year, and I knew how the course was playing that week. It was very gettable, and I just kept telling myself, just keep pushing. You just not pushing, but just keep going, keep making birdies, keep doing what you're doing. There's no time for pars. Like, that was little self-talk here and there, but it was all positive. Like, let's get the next one. Let's hit it down the middle here again. Let's hit this one close. Let's roll this putt in too. Like, it was just a lot of let's keep it going, because I knew I had to.
You went on and you won the tournament. So now you have your first web.com victory. And then what happens after that? Because I think you followed that up with continued really good play, did you not?
Yeah, everything felt easy then, all of a sudden, for a little bit. The next week, I finished 7th, and I felt like I was just playing okay. And the next week, I finished 2nd, and felt like I had a good chance to win there again. And then I'm on the PGA Tour. Like, right after that, I graduated, and then it was time to start on the PGA Tour the very next week.
So how old were you when you realized your ambition to get onto the PGA Tour?
So I was 29.
So you made it.
Yeah, that would have been fall of 2000. That's fall of 2017. So
now you're going to the big tour. So tell us
Yeah.
Tell us your first impressions when you get on the PGA Tour.
So, like you and I had talked about a little bit before, it felt like an easy transition in the beginning. I played the fall series on tour. A lot of the first few tournaments felt like Korn Ferry Tour. It was all the tee time pairing. What people maybe not realize is all the tee time pairings are all the rookies play together. Everybody in the same categories on the tour play together. So I was playing with all the people that just graduated from the Korn Ferry Tour up to the PGA Tour. I had just played with them the last 2 or 3 years. We know each other. It was very easy. There's no fans following us because we're a bunch of no-namers. We might get 10 or 15 people here and there, or like a bunch of Canadians vacationing in a warm place in the winter, and so they follow the Canadians. So that's great, but we're getting kind of the similar press we would on Korn Ferry Tour. So it felt easy, and I just kind of flowed into that transition with my good play and had 2 top 10s in the fall on the PGA Tour.
At one point, I think you ended up at the Waste Management Open in Phoenix. Tell us about that experience.
That was amazing. I think that was February 2018, and that was, I've never felt an adrenaline rush on the golf course as many times as I did there, and especially on the stadium hole on 16. When I got up there for my first tee shot, I could feel my heartbeat in my neck so strong. Like, I just felt it, and I was doing my breathing techniques, trying to breathe through my belly and breathe slow and keep my hands calm, focus on the shot, stay in the process of things, and then I feel my heart just beating through my neck. I'm like, geez, what's going on around here? Nobody's quieting down, right? Everybody's chanting stuff in the background. Somebody started singing "Oh Canada" or something, but you got to hit your shot. So luckily my muscle memory took over, and that first shot I hit to 9 feet and change on Thursday and missed that putt, but then got up there on Friday and hit it even closer to 6 feet, made the putt for birdie, and my family's got video of it. The loud roar went crazy. Like, it took me a while to calm down walking over to 17 tee because I was so excited about it.
That's awesome. Now you go through your first year on the PGA Tour. I think I have this right. You made 17 of 28 cuts. You had 2 top 10s. You had 5 top 20s, and you won nearly $800,000. I mean, a remarkable first year on the tour, and you finished just outside the top 125. So sort of take us through the process as you're getting close to the end of the season. What's going through your mind as you're teeing it up in the last few events?
I knew I was just outside the number to keep my card and needed to have a good last couple tournaments. I had a good tournament, my second to last tournament of the regular season, but it was an opposite field tournament, so it was less FedEx Cup points, and it didn't catapult me as high up the list as I needed to. And then when I played the last regular season event, the Wyndham Championship in North Carolina, I missed the cut. And I think I might have had a little too much self-pressure going into it because I knew I still needed another good finish. But luckily I was able to play well again in the playoffs on the Korn Ferry Tour and earn my card back.
Right back to the PGA Tour, and I want to ask you about a couple of specific experiences you had in that second year. I know in January, your 4th round at the Farmers Insurance Open, you had an interesting 4th round pairing. You're with Scott Stallings and some guy named Eldrick Tiger Woods. So tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so I was really pumped about playing with Scott. I didn't know who the third guy was, but I knew Scott. He was with my same athletic agency, so it was great. I think I received about 15 text messages the night before, probably within about an hour after tee times were set. Hey, you're playing with Tiger? Did you see the tee times yet? Oh, I can't wait to watch. Like, my phone was blowing up, and I hadn't even gone to bed yet. So that was a good experience. I don't know how he was in the past because I didn't know him when he was having his crazy years in the earlier 2000s. But he was very nice when we played together. We talked a lot. he asked me questions about kind of my little brief background and how I got on tour and stuff, and what my plans were for, what tournaments I was playing and all that stuff. So it was some chit chat, and later in the round, once we got a little more comfortable with the conversation or whatever, we joke around a little. He'd throw little jabs here and there. He likes to mess with people, and it was good.
As a player, were you nervous knowing you were playing with him in that fourth round?
I had a little extra nerves teeing off for sure on the first hole. We had at Torrey Pines, you have to take a shuttle van from the clubhouse down out along the main road and back, down a side street to the 10th hole. And it was a 2-tee start, threesomes off 1 and 10 in the morning. It wasn't your typical twosomes late in the afternoon, just because the way the tournament was. So we're in 40th place and we're teeing off the back 9. And we get I rode in a different van than him. And the first thing he said to me, that before he even introduced himself, we get out of the vans and we're walking to 10th tee box. And there might have been some language in there, but it was something along the lines of, we're on the wrong tee. We're supposed to be on the first hole, not the 10th hole, right? Because he's clearly in the mindset that he should be winning every tournament. We should always be competing to win, right? So that was an interesting comment. And then he said he talked to his son the night before and told him that all the pros are teeing off the front 9 and the amateurs are teeing off the back 9 today. And I looked at him. I was like, "Oh, thanks, Tiger. I appreciate that." And he just kind of laughed, whatever. But he meant it. He's like, pros are on the front 9. Everybody else is off the back 9 there. Like, they don't matter in the tournament. So he was counting all of us in that category. But that just goes to show how much he only thinks about winning.
What was the experience like playing in front of what I'm sure was an enormous crowd that follows Tiger, whether he's in first place or 40th place?
Yeah, it was the biggest crowd I'd ever played in front of, and we had 6 armed security guards privately just following the 3 of us inside the ropes all day long, which also was a first experience for me. And I realized on the first hole that he was first to putt for birdie before me, and I realized I was standing so far off in the background on the edge of the green waiting for him to putt, almost like I was a spectator watching him to putt. Like, I normally wouldn't do that. I'd normally be just doing my routine, walking around, looking at everything, and I found myself just kind of staying out of his way subconsciously. I wasn't thinking about doing it, but I just did. And it was probably because I looked up to him as I was a junior and trying to improve in my golf game. He was the main guy I was watching on TV and watching slow motion YouTube videos and trying to learn from his swing and watching highlights of him all the time, just like millions of other people were. And so now I'm playing with him as an adult in my 30s, and I finding myself still doing the same thing. And it took me 16 holes before I realized that I wasn't in the right mindset to perform. And I was letting a lot of the distractions affect my game, and I was almost trying too hard at certain times to ignore those distractions rather than embrace them. Trying to fight away the extra noises from the crowd, or fight away distractions in my head from just the energy of being around Tiger. And it was an inner battle mentally until 16 holes, and I finally was able to settle in and calm down, and I played the last 2-3 holes real well. And I was kind of bummed. I shot 2 over, and I was like, man, I want another shot of this. I want to play again. And he started getting it going on our second 9. He shot 5 under, and that's when crowds were going crazy and more people started following us. I learned a lot from it, though.
What did you learn watching the way he approached the game during that round? Did you take something away from that you've been able to use in your own game since then?
So, 2 things I can think of right away is that, one, he's he's only focused on winning. Everything he's doing out there every day is to try to win the tournament, and he's very vocal about it. If things aren't going his way, and he's on TV all the time, and people have seen him swear or whatever because he wants to win that bad. And if he doesn't say anything, you feel that intense energy from him. I felt that intense energy when he started making birdies on the back nine and making a little run at it. He ended up finishing 20th in the tournament, and you could feel that intensity from him, whether he says it out loud or not. And I like that. I want to try to play with that intensity all the time as well. And then the other thing that I noticed is he's very aware of everything going on around him. He's fully aware of where the groups are in front of us, the groups are behind us, where the crowds are, where the rules officials are, where people are standing. He just knows what's going on. If there's any weather around, he's very in touch with all of his surroundings all the time. And there was one point in the round where it was a big dogleg right par 5, number 6 in Torrey Pines South course, and you're not really paying attention to what's going on at the green when you're on the tee box because it's such a big dogleg. And the second we stepped up to the tee box, he was first to tee off, and he didn't even attempt to go grab his tee and put it in the ground and go to tee off. He just stood by the bag, and I was wondering what was going on, and he just looked around to us and was like, there's a ruling up on the green. And I had to look through the trees and look over at the green and be like, oh, yeah, he's right. I didn't even notice it. So
then let's fast forward. You've had this experience. You've played with Tiger. And in terms of pressure that you probably feel, Canadian Open 2019 Hamilton Golf and Country Club. First of all, talk about what it's like to play in our National Open, and how do you handle the extra attention and pressure that brings?
So I love playing in the Canadian Open. I get more excited about playing in that tournament than I do nervous. I want to win it. I really want to be the next Canadian to win that tournament because it's been so many years since a Canadian-born player has. But I'm more excited at the thought of doing it than I am nervous. I don't know how to explain that. That's just how I feel about it. I don't feel extra pressure playing. Maybe that's why I've had 2 63s in back-to-back years in Canadian Opens, because once my game gets going, I get excited about it and I want to do more, partly because I like getting the attention when I'm playing well. I want to get interviewed after the round. I want my social media page to blow up with people cheering me on and fans rooting for me, especially from my hometown. And so I get excited about it. And when I started playing well on Friday at Hamilton, it was kind of back in that mindset of the Price Cutter Championship when I was on Korn Ferry Tour, that I want to keep making more birdies. I want to keep going lower. And I want to get myself.
So to set the scene, you shoot 71, 1 over in the first round, par 70. Second round, you start off, you make a couple of pars, and then it starts to happen. You end up with 2 eagles, 6 birdies, and a bogey for 61, 9 under.
Yeah.
So how do you stay, as you say, you get very excited, very pumped about the Canadian Open. How do you stay within yourself when you're going so low in a tournament that's so important to you?
Well, luckily, I've gone really low in many tournaments in the past. I'd shot 9 under several times before, and I'd shot 11 under in one round in a mini tour event in Florida before. So going that low was something I wasn't foreign to. And I knew that because I had shot 1 over round 1 and I was in 100 and something place after round 1, I needed to keep going as low as I possibly could to get myself back in the tournament for a chance to compete. And it was less, I wasn't thinking about the fact that it was my home tournament, and it was more I hadn't had a great season up until then, and I'm playing great now. I need to capitalize on this opportunity and go as low as I can and just keep trying to make birdies and keep doing what I'm doing. So I wasn't nervous at all in that situation about it. And I was actually more pissed off when the round finished because I found out Brandt Snedeker shot 60 an hour before me, and I wanted the course record. So I didn't get it. He got it.
Now you're 9 under with 3 to go. So if you were taking some truth serum, did the thought of 59 cross your mind, or did you not even think a hole further ahead?
No, it came into my mind. I knew I was in the position of possibly being able to do it. I don't think it affected my play because I was still in the zone when it came to my shots, and I was still going through my routines the same way. And just when you're going that low, every putt needs to drop. Every shot needs to be near perfect. So 1 or 2 off here and there, you shoot 61 instead of shooting 59.
It was an incredible round to watch, and I'm sure to be in command of your game that well at that golf course must have been a very special feeling indeed. So now here we are. We're in this COVID break. The tours have been off for some time. How have you tried to stay sharp and keep your game tuned while you're on this hiatus?
So we've spent a ton of time with my in-laws, and they live up kind of upstate-ish New York, and we just posted up here for like 5 weeks, and we got a gym in the basement. Luckily, I know a lot of people don't have that opportunity, and so I've worked hard on my fitness, and there were golf courses. It was a time where all the golf courses in Palm Beach County and West Palm Beach, where we are, shut down. Most courses the entire month of April were not open, and even though the weather was cool up here, there were some like logistical loopholes or whatever that golf courses stayed open and then they closed for a few days and opened up again, in the state of New York. And so I played a lot of golf when I was up here that I wouldn't have gotten to play in Florida. So when a lot of people were just taking at-home trick shot videos and stuff, I was still able to get up to the course and play. So luckily for me, this wasn't a ton of time off, and I'm starting back up tournaments again in 2 weeks. So I feel like I've been able to stay sharp during this break, and I've been able to stay healthy and eat healthy, eat good food, and work on my fitness and spend tons of time with family. And so I'm fortunate that it hasn't affected me in a negative way.
Where's your first tournament in a few weeks?
It's going to be in Jacksonville, Florida, on the Korn Ferry Tour.
How different is it now? You've got, you mentioned that you're married. You now have 2 very young boys. How is it different now competing as you've got a young family to also help look after?
Yeah, very different, extremely different. I've had to go from practicing 6 to 10-hour days almost every day to planning out when I'm going to practice, putting in 2-3 hours of intensely focused practice, then coming home and helping out at home. So everything changes. Things have to be much more scheduled, much more rigid in terms of what I can do with my time. But it's been great. I've managed well. When I was on the PGA Tour, they have incredible daycare. Traveling with the tour, and my wife and Jack, my oldest son, was able to travel with us most of the time. So it was really great.
I do want to touch on your Maccabi experience. It happened in 2013, at a time when you still weren't on the Mackenzie Tour. Tell us about that experience and about being in Israel and about that competition, and what, if anything, you take away from that experience?
So I love that whole experience for the 2 weeks that we went. I had never been to Israel, and I didn't know what to expect. Had no clue what I was going to see, what kind of people I was going to encounter. And luckily, some of my family was able to come. My parents and my mom's sister and one of my brothers came. So it was great to have that support come with me. And then one of the greatest things I found was that everybody was there to support a common cause of just playing sports, enjoying the camaraderie of, Jewish athletes, and just having that Jewish background and everybody coming together from all over the world. And then the camaraderie of a team sport, a team game, and an individual sport was extremely fulfilling. Now, I won the individual tournament by 11 shots, but the team dinners at night, everybody hanging out from the junior team and the senior team, and everybody cheering for, everybody else on the team. It was just a different atmosphere that I hadn't been around as I've been trying to make it in the professional ranks, and I still haven't been around. I'm sure for the 1 week out of the year when the Ryder happens or the President's Cup happens, players feel that same kind of camaraderie, and it's almost a refreshing break from just being almost alone in a competitive nature all the time. And so I love that, the whole experience there.
Does that make you even keener to make a President's Cup team and have that team experience again?
Oh yeah, before this whole shutdown happened, I've been having my eye on what kind of world ranking points I need to make that President's Cup team, to make the international team. And I've been following that for some time now, and I really want to play on a President's Cup team. I really want to play in the Olympics. I want to be the top golfer in Canada in the world ranks. So I got some work ahead of me, but I'm very determined to do
it. For a kid who at 17 or 18 was a 12 handicap and who was determined to make the PGA Tour, I don't think anyone's going to bet against you on any of those fronts, Ben. I'm certainly not going to. One of the questions that's come in is about your most challenging or memorable course experience while you've been on tour.
Challenging or memorable? I'll try to, whichever one comes to mind first. Well, challenging and memorable at the same time is Torrey Pines. And I've been able to make the cut at that tournament both years I've played it because I've driven the ball well, but they're very long golf courses and the rough is extremely high when we play. But because I'm pretty accurate off the tee and my short game's been good, I've been able to make the cuts both years. But that is a challenging golf course and a memorable experience, not only because I played with Tiger Woods at one time, but some of the views that you get playing Torrey Pines, being right on the ocean, is incredible. And it's a great challenge all around, and a tournament that easily stands out in my mind. That's probably why Tiger plays it every single year.
You mentioned earlier that you're looking at the lists to see where you stand points-wise for the President's Cup. What about for getting into future majors? Where do you stand on that front, and how do you plan your schedule to try to get points to get into the majors?
The majors, for the most part, are top 60 in the world ranks. If you get to top 60 in the world ranks, you get into, I think, almost every single major, even the U.S. Open. So that's a huge number to achieve. And I think Adam Hadwin, who's been top in Canada's rankings for a long time, has been inside top 60, 40s, 50s for most of it. He might have fallen out for a little bit to 60 or 70 or whatever, but he's been in that top 60 world rankings for the last several years, and Corey Connors has been on his heels lately. And you get into almost every single tournament you want when you achieve that top 60 in the world. And that would get you on President's Cup team as well.
Canadians hang together a little bit while you're out on tour? Help each other, support each other?
Yeah, definitely. We all are extremely friendly with each other. Some more so than others, just because of how long they went. They went to the same college or have known each other in junior golf. Like Corey Connors, Matt Hughes, they've known each other forever. They're much more tight knit than any of the other Canadians out there. But we're all very friendly with each other. Get along very well. Our families know each other. So yeah, it's nice. You don't walk past each other without saying hi.
one of the questions you get asked is when you were growing up and getting really interested in golf and setting as a goal to get on the tour, who were some of the players that you admired or looked up to, wanted to pattern yourself after?
Well, other than Tiger, I looked at Jim Furyk and Matt Kuchar a ton because I wasn't a huge long bomber off the tee. I'm average by today's standards. I fly the ball in the air with my driver about 275, and it's average nowadays. So when I've played with Matt Kuchar a few times, and when we were paired together, we were playing the golf course from the same spots because we hit it almost the same distance off the tee. And to see him shoot the scores that he shoots on a regular basis with that distance, I realized, my short game needs to get better. My consistency with my iron game needs to get better because he hardly misses a shot. And then his short game is incredible. And his putting is amazing. Every single putt he hits, it looks like it's going to go in. So, I paid a lot of attention to him. Furyk hasn't been on top of his game as of late, but when I was in college and stuff, he was still on fire. He shot 58 at one point, I think, when I was in college, and I watched that. So those two guys are definitely people I've looked at huge. Shows how have they been able to be successful with their distance.
Going forward, what's next in terms of getting back to the PGA Tour for you?
Well, number one, I'm in the mindset that I know I'm going to be back on the PGA Tour again, and I'm going to stay there for a much longer time. There's been eligibility changes that are making it trickier to get on the tour now because of the COVID shutdown. So I'm going to have to do some really magical stuff to get out there in the next year. But my mindset is I'm going to get out there. I've focused on my short game incredibly since September, and we're in almost June now, and my short game has improved dramatically, or drastically, either one. And because my short game's gotten better, it's actually helped my iron game. Certain things I've learned about impact zone, with 30-yard shots has bled into my full swing with the irons. And driver distance, I'm hitting it slightly further, which is further than I've ever hit it before. My swing speed's not fast in terms of McElroy's and stuff. I swing about 112, 113 miles per hour, but I get a lot out of it in terms of my efficiency for how far the ball goes. And then my putting is it's always been good, and it's still good. I saw a comment come up that said, how do you keep making putts when you're missing them or missing the short ones or something like that? And I think it was from Jesse Friedman. Maybe I saw it flash by. And my advice would be, don't think about making the putt. Think about hitting a good putt. Pick a target wherever you want to hit it to, right edge, left edge, if it's a ball out, and just hit a good putt to that spot. If it goes in, it goes in. If not, whatever.
Golf can be a streaky game. So when you get into a bit of a funk, what are your triggers to get you out of it? To get out of when things aren't going the way you want them to go. Give us some help as amateurs how we get into a better mindset when things aren't going our way.
So I have on the inside of my yardage book cover that Morgan made for me, I have 4 things written down. I hope I get them all right. But one is, I am a champion. Think gold. Focus on the good always. And there's one other one, but it's something along the lines of that goodness. You always got to focus on the good. And by that, there might be water on the right down the hole, but you're trying to hit it down the middle of the fairway. You need to focus on hitting it down the middle of the fairway and ignore the water. And so that's focusing on the good, right? Believing in yourself all the time, thinking you're a champion, thinking gold was something we came up with because I want to make the Olympics. So thinking gold is my motivated way of just think good, think successful. Like, don't let your mind wander on the errors or the what ifs or trouble here or stuff like that. You got to focus on what you can control, and you can control your thoughts going through your mind, and you can control your own swing if you're practiced enough. And you got to focus on those good things that you can control.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey, your stories, and your ambitions with us. I have to say, for those of us who've followed you for many years, and anyone who's been tuning in today, can have no doubt that you'll be back on the PGA Tour, and we look forward to seeing you in the winner's circle. And we're so proud that you wear the Canadian Maple Leaf when you're out there. Thank you so very, very much. I'm going to pass it over to Daniel to wrap things up. Thanks again, Ben.
No problem.
Wow. All I can say is, wow, thank you both again for your time tonight. That was an incredible conversation. Jeremy, I think I need to find a new day job. And Ben, as Jeremy said, we look forward to seeing you again on the PGA Tour, at the President's Cup, the Olympics, and of course at the Maccabee Games.
I had a talk with Jeremy one time. I want to come back, and whether I compete or not, I want to come back at a time where if I miss like a US Open or whatever the date is in the PGA Tour, it's irrelevant. It won't affect my career or anything. And I want to come back and just enjoy the experience, either play or coach or just something. But I definitely, at some point in the future, I'm going to come back to the Maccabee Games again. For sure.
Open invitation.
Thank you.
Qualify. You can probably qualify for the team.
As for everyone watching, I invite everyone to tune in next Tuesday night at our regular time, 7 p.m., when we talk Blue Jays baseball with Shai Davidi. Happy Shavuot to everyone. Have a great night. And as Ben says, think gold.
I like it.